Hello, everybody. Welcome to the late but never, no, never late. The late, Why Ukraine live stream, and coming to you from Ukraine. Not every day, but every day that I can. We've got a lot of news to cover, so I hope you're interested. If you give me a moment, I'm just going to check to make sure we're on all of our platforms and that the stream is up and running so I don't make a fool of myself more than usual. Yeah. Okay. Great. Great. So, interesting things this week. Good things happened in just the past couple of days. First of all, we have this meeting with the foreign minister of Hungary, and it was basically all just bullshit show, for lack of a better term. Essentially, Hungary came with a list of demands, and the list of demands was everything that Ukraine's already doing. Quote unquote, respect the rights of Hungarians in Ukraine. I mean, I'm living in a 50% Hungarian town here in Ukraine. All right. The most of the, quote unquote, Ukrainians here also have Hungarian passports. They don't want to join Hungary. They're perfectly happy here. You walk around the town, half the signs are in Hungarian, everything has Hungarian and Ukrainian on the menus, on the street signs, everywhere. So, they're demanding that Ukraine must allow the Hungarian language. That's happening. Hi guys. Hey everybody. Sorry for being late. So this whole big meeting was just a big show, nothing burger. And I mean, I think it was basically, they made up this big story. I'm talking about the Hungarian government made up this big story that Ukraine is violating the rights of Hungarians. So now they can go back to their people and say, we restored the rights and sovereignty of the Hungarian people. Nothing happened. That's the problem. Nothing happened. Yeah. Absolutely nothing. So, like, why? You know what I mean? Good morning, Catherine. Good morning, everybody. Whatever time it is where you are. So now, apparently, the follow up to this is that Viktor Orban is now going to come and visit Ukraine. Won't that be interesting? Boy, he sure changed his tune, didn't he? Now the rumor is that some European countries, and maybe the United States too, said to Mr. Orban, listen, knock off your crap or we're going to crash your currency. And that is a surefire way to ruin an economy, to break an economy. And he knows that's what his entire 12 years or something of power in Hungary is entirely dependent on the economic benefits they have received from being in the European Union. It's just like, and he's at the same time just fighting against that, though. It's just okay. So thanks for listening to me about that. We have some real Orkbon. You don't, King Raccoon, you don't think Orkbon will go to Ukraine? Oh, Tony, hey man, I'm so sorry that God, I was trying to start earlier. Um, maybe I should do these live streams every other day so I can catch up on sleep. You know, I woke up at 4 o'clock in the morning and I said, "Oh, it's a little bit too early." And the next thing I woke up, it was 5. To be honest, that's what happened. Um, yeah, but we have some real interesting things to take to talk about. I think the big one. The other big one besides this, okay, besides this quote unquote truce, is the GLSDBs. Let's see if we can find my article about the GLSDBs, because that is like the here we go. This is what I was looking for. So, supposedly they're already here. Supposedly they're supposed to arrive today. I'm hoping. Okay, so it's January 31st right now. I'm hoping that this means that they actually arrived a few days ago and they were already set up, and today they're going to be used for the first time. Yeah, Mitch, we're not sure if Orban goes to Hungary or not. So, yeah, Catherine, they're saying they should be here today, but to be honest with you, I'm hoping that, like in the in previous cases when they've announced these things, it's pretty much turned out that they actually arrived before. Because why would you say, oh look, hey Russians, get your stuff out of the way so we can shoot these missiles? Because you know that doesn't make a lot of sense. um let's see here. Why am I losing all my translations? No. Okay. It doesn't make a lot of sense to um basically forewarn the army of the things that you're sending. Like that's like, how about no? You know what I mean? Really. Let's just not. But okay, so these things have 100. Yeah, that's what should happen. That's what should happen. Oh, boom, boom, boom. And then the announcement, right? Yeah. So yeah, and basically, these are not going to get us all the way to, but calculations are that Ukraine is getting about 1,000 of these to start with, which is enough to have an impact. It's a good start, and it's not enough to hit like the Kerch Strait Bridge. It's not enough to get seriously penetrate into Crimea, but it does with extreme accuracy cover all of the occupied territory of Ukraine outside of Crimea. So that's a big deal. That is a big deal. And if you don't know what these things look like, oh, here we go. This is the picture I was looking for. So let's see if we can find another picture. They're kind of interesting looking, these things. Let's see if I can find it here. I thought sure I had a picture to show you. They have it's slightly different from what they show there in this picture. That was an older, like, guesstimation of what one of these might look like. But in all actuality, let's see if I can find. It's very interesting. They have a big tip on the end. They have a big point. Yeah, Jake Broe believes we'll see them within 72 hours. See, this is the thing, Catherine. I mean, yeah, I was just watching Jake Broe, and yeah, I don't know. Maybe I'll just never be happy. I complain if you hung me with a new rope, right? Yeah. So we can take a look here. I was hoping I had the article up to take a look at it, and I seem to have lost it. Oh, this is the one I wanted to show you, because this shows a more accurate picture. That's what they look like. I knew I was going to find it here somewhere. That's what I was looking for. So they have a big tip on the end. All of the sensors and everything are in the front tip, as opposed to some of the earlier designs that looked like they might have had this weird thing on the side, something like that. No, 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 no. Much better, like this. Maybe this is why they got delayed, because maybe the original design that they had that was like this just didn't work. So they had to completely redesign it. I don't know. I actually have a couple of students who work for Boeing, but I'm not teaching them at the moment. I guess I should have said former students. I should ask them what they're. So this is a model, and you can see some slight design changes. So maybe that's what happened. God, it took for fucking ever, though. I mean, it was literally supposed to be here last June. You know what I mean? So let's see. The nice thing about this again is that there's a huge stockpile. Oh, Catherine, the range is supposed to be 150 kilometers, or people are saying 100 miles, which is more than 150 kilometers, but whatever. Roughly speaking. So, you know, it doesn't replace, $60 billion, $61 billion or whatever from the US, but dark cloud silver lining, right? Yeah. So, those are the two big stories today. Everything else is that this I find very interesting. We talked about the other day about Ukraine raising money, and they're putting out government bonds, 1.6 billion. I don't know what that is, and divide that by like 36, and you'll get it's not a huge amount, but it's I'm glad that Ukraine is doing it. They need to put out more bonds, and they need to put out like war bonds, just in the same way that we America has treasury notes. These are domestic bonds, so I think they might only be able to be purchased by Ukrainians, as opposed to, like, for example, U.S. Treasury notes, which can be purchased by China, for example. Yeah, so that's a big positive. Yeah. Not a lot of progress in every other place internationally. On the front line, it's just hard. Good positives that I guess partisans in Sebastopol, so this is in Crimea, are going around locating missile storage sites, okay, and taking pictures of them and posting them online. It's good, yeah, but the only problem is I would rather have seen the pictures after they were, exploded and attacked by the Ukrainian government, rather than these being posted to, Telegram, so that unfortunately they're out of range of the GLSDBs, insofar as we are aware. The problem is this kind of gives the Russians a heads up. Hey, we're going to attack these soon. Better look out. But hey. I want to talk about something that happened a few days ago, and I didn't get a chance to speak about it before. So this happened January 26th, 25th or 26th. So Vladimir Putin made his first visit to Kaliningrad that we know of since the war, and basically had to fly right along the border. Oh yeah, King Raccoon. Yeah, I know. Yeah, it was in storage, and yeah, hairline cracks, all that stuff. But I that was the original reason. But my theory was also that they had to redesign it. So it wasn't the only reason it was delayed. Um, so this was an important thing here that took place, and I didn't have a chance to talk about it, and it kind of flew under the radar a lot in the media. Kaliningrad has been having some interesting low-level anti-Russian or anti-war protest. And I don't think I have examples of any of that like right in front of me, but it's been happening. Yeah. And yeah, I mean this was a political symbol to NATO to say, "Hey, I can this is part of Russia too and I can go anywhere I want." Well, Russia was never going to stop um Putin from going to another part of Russia, you know, obviously. But this is more of a symbol of Putin's weakness and Russia's weakness. You see here, it also served as a reminder to Kaliningrad residents that they are part of Russia. You know, and that it was, it was Putin's pre presidential campaign campaign. It was a campaign stop, you know. But it shows. I mean, let's think about this, right? We need to start thinking about this. The Russian Empire is going to collapse. When that happens, I hope that our military and political leaders are thinking about what's going to happen to Kaliningrad. Okay. Otherwise known as, what was it called before? Königsberg or East Prussia, when it belonged to Germany and then, Lithuania and all these other countries. Are they going to have an independent referendum? The most important thing is, how are we going to secure the nukes? Okay, that's thing number one that needs to be on everyone's mind, because this is happening. It's going to happen. And speaking of hairline cracks, okay, it seems like, oh, Putin's expressing his strength. No, he's expressing weakness here because he needed to go to Kaliningrad. You remember last week I was talking about the what's it called? The excess defense articles, EDA transfers. Okay, maybe this is an example of Biden using the EDA. So apparently, someone, I can't remember who, maybe it was Paul, informed me that the EDA is limited to 500 million per year for the whole program. I couldn't find any reference for that anywhere, but there's nothing stopping military aid from the U.S. to Greece right now, apparently. And part of this deal is, so we've got 30 million in foreign military aid financing to Greece to provide aid to Ukraine. So Greece has a bunch of military equipment sitting around, and they're like, yeah, we've got it sitting around, but we have to refurbish it. We have to fix it up. We have to it's going to cost money for us to get it to Ukraine. So, I guess as part of this sale of 40 F-35 jets, which is a lot. Yeah, exactly. And then here's the deal, right? So Turkey got 40. These numbers are very interesting, right? Turkey just got 40 F-16s. Greece just got 40 F-35s. And Turkey wanted to buy F-35s and was refused. That's a big, fat, hairy statement. Okay? That's a big statement when you think about it. That's a big statement saying we want Greece to be successful, and Turkey, you can go F yourself. I mean, in a not maybe not in a full way, but in a slightly polite way. That's very interesting. But I mean, I think it is, in many ways, it's a statement about Turkey's mixed stance on Ukraine, about Turkey's mixed stance with regards to the Middle East, and serious questions about Turkey's democracy, and B, whether or not Turkey is in fact an ally of the United States, because they like to ride. So here's what you get: if you don't want to go full bar, you just get the F-16s, and your arch enemy, which is ironic because they're both in NATO, right? But they're like arch enemies. Your arch enemy gets the thing that's going to kill what we're giving you. But so this, I think, remember, I was talking about, yeah, and I posted a thing about that, Mitch, about Turkish banks blocking Russian transactions. I mean, who knows how long that's really going to last? But apparently, and I don't have the article right in front of me, but apparently that took place after a U.S. visit to Turkey, and they pretty much said, "Yeah, you need to stop these exchanges with Russia, or we're going to crash your currency even more." I mean, unfortunately, it's like with Orban, with Slovakia, with Erdogan, these strong men, they have to be strong armed. Their arms have to be twisted a little bit. It's the only thing that they respond to. Sadly, they can't see the forest for the economic trees. So last week I was talking about, would it be possible to use this EDA, excess defense articles, through a third party? Because under the EDA, Ukraine would have to pay for the shipping, the packaging, the refurbishment of whatever junk we've got sitting around. Yeah, Mitch, it's hardball. Exactly right. Oh, really? Yeah, I knew the UK airbase was on the Greek side of Cyprus, but yeah, okay, that makes sense. Yeah. So, so I think that, this is kind of what's happening here is we could say the U.S. is robbing Peter to pay Paul in a way, sort of, but basically saying, okay, Greece, we'll pay you to take this stuff off our hands through the EDA, or you'll do. I mean, it's a shell game that they're playing. We'll pay you to refurbish your stuff, your old stuff that you have, and send that to Ukraine. That's the $30 million. Then you will pay to take 2 C-130s, 10 P-3 aircraft engines, and 60 Bradleys. Okay, and those are going to go to Greece, right? So Greece gets the Bradleys. Greece gets whatever they're replacing the Bradleys with, probably Leopards, or actually they might have they might have T-72s. I can't remember. They have a bunch of them, though. They have a whole bunch of tanks and IFVs that are old, but they work. And up to 4 frigates, So that's really important to Greece. They want to have ships in the Aegean Sea to defend themselves from a theoretical attack by Turkey, which, come on, that's not actually going to happen. The only thing they're using, the two countries just use this to rile up their voter base. It's like soccer teams. Exactly like that. And then again, 200 million in foreign military finance to facilitate Greek arm transfers to Ukraine, because they have Greek has a lot of old Russian military equipment, and so they get the new stuff, and then Greece gives their old stuff to Ukraine. Fine. If that's what it has to be, great. But this is, I mean, I was complaining. I was like, last week, I was like, why doesn't Biden do this? Well, apparently that's what he's doing. That's what they're doing. under the rug. Congress can't stop them. Proposed EDA transfers to Greece pending congressional notification. Doesn't say congressional decision. It just says they just have to notify Congress that they're doing it, and it's done. So it's Greece's Soviet-era equipment. So Tor rocket systems, that's pretty. S-300s, wow. And anti-aircraft guns with lots of ammo, I should expect. So that's a big plus. That's a good thing. Also, from a couple days ago, I don't know if I spoke about this before. They're slowly catching these, but so basically, okay. So there's two big scandals in the past few days. One is the Lithuanian member of the European Parliament, who was just found to be like a long-term Russian spy, Russian asset. Yeah, Catherine. To going back to this, it's thinking outside the box a little bit. So thank God. I guess you know what happened. I think Joe Biden watches my live stream. He probably watched my live stream and he said, "Wow, James, that's a great idea. We'll do that right now." And look, they announced it the very next week. All right. So, we're slowly, I say we, but other people, not me, are slowly weeding out these guys who are, God, but it just takes so slow. It takes so much time. I mean, if they caught this, okay. So GRU, that's KGB. Okay, it's the Russian equivalent to CIA. And he's been doing it. I was reading it since before 2014. So he got into Brussels. He got into the EU, kind of got set up as an agent in this company called Sonatech, which honestly, it's a Russian company. It's a Moscow-based company, and they provide measurement equipment. And this is just like the ball bearings of World War II, where without these stupid little precisely measured devices. Hey, Max. Yeah, Catherine. Just in case he's watching right now. Good old Joe, up at midnight. Sorry, Tony. Yeah, so they're an import company, and they import these very precise measuring devices that are used to make military equipment that Russia cannot make anywhere itself. So apparently this has been stopped or is being stopped, but it's been going on. Sonatech sources high precision machine tools and measuring devices from various countries. Russia has failed to produce domestic substitutes for such devices. So the Russian military-industrial complex vitally depends on the imported products provided by Sonatech. Stop this little stream and it can have a massive effect on the rest of Russia's ability to manufacture arms. And of course, look at this. Guess where it's going through? Turkey. So in 2023, they began routing the materials through an intermediary in Turkey with a similar name. So, it's whack-a-mole. So pretty soon, maybe shutting this down was part of the deal to get those 40 F-16s that Turkey got. Yeah, And I want to talk about just a couple more little Russian operations that are going on that we just need to be aware of. I mean, this is not like headline news, guys, but it's just to be. Oh, Tony, thanks, man. Hey, hey, good job, man. Good work. I mean, I just want to point out, guys, like, Tony's coming to Ukraine next month and to help raise money. I mean, we raised money for him, and you can uh I should have my page up at all times, shouldn't I? You can still go down here and send money to him. Okay, you don't have to send $1,500, but you could, put in $1, whatever you want. But he's also working, a full-time job to help finance his return to Ukraine. So he isn't just relying on our dime. Okay, that's an important point to make. He's over there in Carolina busting his hump so he can come back to Ukraine. So, I have a lot of respect for that. And I said, we could do another big fundraiser for you, Tony. Let's send you more money. And he said, no, you guys have helped enough. We. He said, I don't want to owe anybody anything. I don't want to feel like I'm in debt too much. So I respect that too. Anyway, so thanks. Yeah, oh yeah. Well, I assume Turkey has its own F-16 pilots and can handle that training. Yeah. So just understand that this hybrid war is continuously going on. We have pro-Russian forces in Poland who are doing little things here and there constantly. We've got Romanian farmers blockading the checkpoint. We've got Romanian far right government, but far right parliament. They only control about 10% of the parliament, but that can be enough to have a minority leadership position. And they're saying we're going to take back part of Ukraine. All of that is Russian info ops, Russian. It's not. It wasn't happening before. It wasn't happening before this war. Okay, that's the thing. It wasn't. This is not just these are not just random occurrences. Another big thing that I want to talk about that's not being talked about is, I mean, it is, yes, okay, so Russian conscription on occupied territory. So we're talking about in Zaporizhia and Kherson, and they're forcing people to join the army. Can you imagine that, right? Can you imagine being forced to join the army to fight against your own country? Yeah, thank you. Tony, only one who'll be fighting to preserve Western democracies. Exactly. We owe Tony. Yeah, that's what I told him too. So but he's got his sense of honor and stuff. So, but yeah. So I mean, I just here's the thing. I mean, it's obviously it's easier said than done, right? But in my imagination, okay, is there some way that these forced conscripts, yeah, okay, Russia's handing them weapons and putting them in trenches. Is there some way that Ukraine, through its partisans, I mean, the thing is, I know how they're doing it. What they're doing is they're taking these conscripts and one by one they're embedding them with larger Russian units. So it's not like they're creating a Kherson regiment of conscripts from the occupied territories. They're not doing that. If they were, it would be a great opportunity. That army, that little regiment, could just turn around and become a partisan group. But is there some way that the Ukrainian military can get in touch, have some sort of communication with these people who are being forced into the Russian army, to get them to in some way sabotage the Russian army? Yeah, Tony's a sniper. I mean, he has military experience going way back, but he's a hunter, like shooting squirrels and what have you. He's a hunter. That's his primary hobby. And so hunter, sniper, same diff. So they put him through some training, or not training. They tested him on the they tested him on the shooting range in Ukraine, and they were like, "Oh," because originally they thought he was just kind of this, dumpy looking older dude with, "Oh, I want to fight for Ukraine," and then and then he takes a gun out, and they're like, "Oh shit, okay, now we know what you're here for." So yeah, so the other thing is that where are they getting these people? Well, the essential services. So we're talking about like utility workers, right? Municipal services are basically gone in the occupied territories of Ukraine. These people who kept on working in the local utilities because they knew that they needed to keep the power on and the heat on for people, and the electricity on for people, and the trash services. And now those things are gone, and the trash is just piling up, and the electricity is breaking down. It says they stem from the fact that there are no people, not enough repair teams, locksmiths, and basic skilled workers because they have all been conscripted. Russia has forcibly conscripted an estimated 65,000 Ukrainian men in occupied Donetsk and Luhansk since the start of the full-scale invasion. It's actually less than I thought there would be. I thought there was going to be more, to be honest. But, I just... Okay, so a lot of this is talking about Donetsk, but I'm thinking about Kherson and Zaporizhia. But at what point are people in these occupied territories, how brainwashed are they by propaganda, particularly in Donetsk and Luhansk? Yeah, it's really sick, Sally. At what point are these people going to wake up and say, oh my God, we've been sold a lie and everything's falling down around us? To me, somehow we have to get the information to these people because they're in this, like North Korea bubble. Okay. All right. Yeah. This is why when I join the Ukrainian army, one of the big things I want to work on is communications. Yeah. There's a whole big thing about that. I'm going to talk about brainwashing the children tomorrow. It's on my list, Sally. This is why I want to work in communications, setting up, particularly military communication systems on the front line. That's what I hope to be able to do. It's potentially a very dangerous. Hell, that's a dangerous job in America. I've been shot at in America doing that. Honestly, working up on big cellular towers and all kinds of communication systems like that. It's very dangerous. I mean, not just from falling down, but it is my hope that that information war is just as important as the physical war. And that is a big reason why I'm all about, let's see if I can find it. Yeah, this is the one. So good old Timothy Snyder. Okay. You guys all know Tim. Good dude. Dr. Snyder. Okay. Yeah. We need a common factor between sides in order to forge communications. Yeah. Yeah, in Russia, the internet's going down. Yeah, I think, well, we'll talk about that too. No, you're right. But I mean, okay. We can't judge. We can't judge. Okay. But I personally know a lot of people from uh, Donetsk and Luhansk territories. Hey, Mark. Good morning. So I know a lot of people from these territories, and they all say, like, they saw their, it's just like finding out that your best friend is a Trump voting racist Republican, and like you just never knew because you never talked about like politics with him. Um, it's like that. So a lot of them, they like, when the war started. I'm talking about back in 2014. Um, all of a sudden, these latent divisions appeared. People were like, "I'm Russia." I mean, all of a sudden, your cousin or your sister-in-law is like, "No, I'm with Russia. I wanna be Russian. I consider myself a Russian." Well, I don't. I'm a Ukrainian, and never talk to each other again. And one person totally believes uh, whatever the propaganda is, the Russian propaganda. Because people don't always like to talk about politics. I mean, this is true in America too, right? People don't like to talk about politics around the kitchen table or whatever. It's considered impolite, and but sometimes we need to. Sometimes we have. It's a difficult conversation, but we need to. You know, um, and or right now, I mean, friends don't let friends vote Republican, is what I'm saying. Okay, so this is a really, really cool video with Timothy Snyder and Serhiy Plokhy, who is a very famous Ukrainian writer and poet, author and poet. And let me see if I can find the part that I wanted to show you.
Своїми українськими колегами говорити з вас
I don't know. Can you guys
про
hear
цей
that?
проєкт. This project
Here we go.
is a wonderful thing. I'm very, very happy we can do it. The idea is to create a very broad, very deep Ukrainian history.
Right.
The idea is to explore, to find the things that we don't yet know, rather than insisting on the things that we think we know. The idea is to include. We have about 100 colleagues, 100 colleagues working on this, most of them Ukrainian, many of them from abroad. The idea is to reach all the way back into history, because some of the things that we don't know but should know about the lands of Ukraine go very far back indeed. It's possible to write a great deal of the history of humanity focusing on the territories around the Black Sea, the Ukrainian steppe, the Dnipro River. So the notion is to do something also which is both very old-fashioned and extremely modern. It's very old-fashioned to think you can do a huge project about the history of a country, but this is also very contemporary in that we'll be using the latest technological models, especially to try to understand the distant past. So we'll be bringing together over the course of 3 years about 100 people to work on about 70 themes. And by the end of it, we will have rearranged the history of the world. We will have demonstrated a new model of national history. We will have created relationships among Ukrainians and between Ukrainians and others. And I think we'll have made some fantastically interesting discoveries. And at the end of it, I think we'll have a presentation of the history of Ukraine. I'm hopeful, largely because I have such great colleagues working with me on this, I'm hopeful we'll have a presentation of the history of Ukraine, which will be different and better than anything that has ever been done for the history of a nation. So that's what we're aiming for. Those are our modest goals.
Okay, so this is really important to talk about, and I don't know if you guys understand why, but the story of your nation is an important thing. Call it a myth if you want, but it provides this connection for people that unifies. Okay, and it can be used. This is a powerful thing that it can be used for good and it can be used for bad. And the story that Russia sells, which if you watched the original Timothy Snyder Yale courses, you'll know that the story that Russia has sold, and if you watch, for example, oh my gosh, what's last week? I talked about this video on the Savage Sage channel about how Russia, stole its origin. Here we go. How Moscovia stole the name Russia and stole it from Ukraine.
Convenient part of history for Moscovites.
All right. And I gave you guys homework, right? Yeah, and it also gives us insights on today. Yeah, exactly. Tell a story that makes you proud of your heritage. So those poor people in, Luhansk and Donetsk, they've been sold this concept of the Ruski Mir and the Russian world that, first of all, is not true. But second of all, they believe Ukraine is nothing. Ukraine doesn't even exist. Okay, so they can't. There's no thinking outside the box because they don't even know that the box exists. 50 professors sitting in a class room won't win a war. That's fair. That's fair. But wars are won in the will. Wars are won in the will. And this should have been done years ago, but let's take a look at this. Okay, I want to just show you guys here. Hang on. Come on. There we go. Let's talk about something important. Yeah. Why do you guys speak English? Right? Why? Yeah. Why do you speak English or Norwegian, for example, or in Catherine's case, Australian? Sorry, Catherine. Why does Spain speak Spanish? Why do Russians speak Russian? Why do people, at least in northern India, why do they speak Indian? Indian. The Hindu languages, the 500 different Hindu languages that they speak. Or why do Iranians speak their language? And the answer for you, no. Sally, that colonization, well, maybe, Sally. Ultimately. Colonization is the reason that people in Colombia speak Spanish. But I'm going to let you know that the reason that these people speak these languages is because of Ukraine. So let's just take a look at this, for example. Let me just get you, maybe you already are aware of this thing. Maybe you, all right, let's just take a look at this video. I share this with my students all the time. So this is a map of the major Indo-European language groups. Yeah, so they can be grouped basically in these categories. Okay, the Romance languages, Latin-based languages, Germanic. The yellow is Slavic languages, Iranian, and I said Indian, Indo-Aryan, Hindu or Hindi, Sanskrit-based languages. Yeah, and then these are the ones here. So let's talk about this word, mother. Right? In Old Norse, mother, right? Latin, mater, right? Greek, Sanskrit, these are all the same words. We should copyright it. Father, pater, father, Peter, Peter. Yeah? So for a long time, like 150, almost 200 years, scholars, 50 professors sitting in a room, have been wondering, why do all of these people use almost the same words? Here we have, the word for brother, frater, brother, brati. They're all very similar. Why? Right? And we've asked that question. Sister, swester, swister, soror, svasir in Sanskrit. Why are they similar to each other? And this is a question that has sort of raged in historical circles, archaeological circles, linguistic circles for 150 years. And if you kind of draw a line between all of these, just all of these central language areas, the central nexus keeps coming up as Ukraine. Yeah. So there has been a theory for a long time, which was the migrations, the northern migrations theory of Indo-European. And let me just show you what it looks like. Okay. Yeah. So around 4000 BC, the Indo-Europeans, these new people, began to spread from their homeland in the Caucasus. That was the old story. Yeah. And over the next few thousand years, they spread and eventually came to dominate all of Europe, blah, blah, blah. Now, keep in mind, I'm not saying that's a good thing necessarily, but it happened. And we have been trying to figure out where these Indo-Europeans came from. Because basically, all of these languages here, all of these words, these can be traced back to an original root. The European languages, Iranian languages, Indian languages, and they all come back to one root, and we call that theoretical language Indo-European. So in theory, these people all spoke one language, and they originally came from one place. So the debate for the last 150 years has been, where did they come from? Yeah? Okay. So this is what we know to be the Proto-Indo-European homeland, and the specific the specific people that lived here. We call them, the archaeological word for them, we don't know what they called themselves. We call them the Yamna or the Yamnaya, which means a pit house. So I've actually worked on archaeological digs here in Ukraine for where these people lived, and I can show you where. I spent a week with archaeologists in and I don't know, maybe you didn't come here for archaeology, but here's Ukraine. Yeah. All right. This city right here is Zaporizhia, very close to the front line. I spent a week on this island right here. Okay. Literally right over here. On right exactly here. Digging an archaeological dig, essentially. And this archaeological dig site was about 4,000 years old, and this was the edge of the Indo-European genetic spread as of 4,000 years ago. So the Dnipro River was the western edge of Indo-European, essentially. So you could see there was a far eastern edge as well, but most of the Indo-European population was in the western side. So this kind of shows you how it spread. And this has been a theory for a long time. I'm going to speed up this video so that we can no. Yeah. Now, this is quite a bit funny. In the last 10 years, there's been a lot of updates to this idea. I don't know if you guys were, but this map that you're looking at here is the reason why, it turns out, the reason why we all speak similar languages. Why are words for father, mother, brother, sister, all the basic words in all of these languages are very similar and essentially this. The point is that all of our languages that we speak, unless you're in China or Japan or or Africa, or you're a Native American, you're speaking a Indo-European language. You're essentially speaking a language that originally came from Ukraine. Yeah. Right. So, okay. So there was a lot of debate about this. The other theory was that everyone came, all European people, and therefore European languages, came from the Levant and from Anatolia and spread there, and it was called the first farmers theory. Yeah, sure. Absolutely. Give me a second. And I'm sorry, I know you guys came here for news, and I'm giving you a... So, I'm giving you a history lesson, but sorry. I did warn you this would happen. So, yeah, so these languages spread and eventually became all of the languages that we speak today, they're based on this. So in a way, and this is an old tree, but in a way you could say that we all speak Ukrainian. Because as it has turned out, the old model was that Ukrainian was a little bush, a little offshoot of the tree of Indo-European languages. Turns out that now we have genetic proof, and this has come out just since 2017 and really since 2019. We now have genetic proof of this theory. That's the most important thing to understand. So, yeah, exactly. This I will give you a link to this as well. Yeah. It's just, oh, you're a Graham Hancock guy? Oh, that's interesting. Okay. Well, I mean, keep in mind, I'm not saying that, oh, Indo-European languages are superior. Not at all. Not in any way, shape, or form. I just think it's very interesting, and it's something that we didn't know about. So here's another example that I think is pretty good. And these are all theoretical models, but now, starting since 2017, we have genetic evidence to back that up. Yeah. Yeah, so the Scythians, I mean, I could go deep into the complexities of this, which I've studied this, for many, many years. I'm going to speed this up too, because it's nice, but I want to, I have a life. Yeah. It's very calming to kind of watch this. Yeah. So this is a huge, when I'm talking, when I'm talking, or when Timothy Snyder, not to compare myself to Timothy Snyder, but when Timothy Snyder's talking about letting the world know about this story, about the real story. Are you getting back to war soon? This is important, okay? This is really important to the war. Understanding this story of Ukraine is important. We have to think about it this way, yeah? Ukraine is the mother of Europe, the birthplace of Europe. And when you reframe your thinking about Ukraine in this way, then Ukraine becomes much more important. I'm talking about people in Spain and people in Ireland, okay, people in America who say to me, why should I care about Ukraine? Because Ukraine gave birth to you. Or maybe it should be more likely, we should say that Ukraine is your father. Because genetic evidence suggests actually that you're right. Ukraine is not the mother of Europe. Because the mothers came from Anatolia. The mothers, genetically speaking, were the farmers. So let me take a step back here, and let's talk about something very important. Have you guys heard of? Do you know about? And we can stop that for a second. You guys have a link to it. Have you heard of Tripilia? Yeah? Tripilia culture. Everybody in Ukraine knows about Tripilia culture. I didn't know what Tripilia was until hang on, Tripilia culture, James. I didn't know about Tripilia culture until I came to Ukraine. Tripilia culture, these were some of the first farmers. They were the descendants of the first farmers in Europe. They came from Anatolia. They were not Indo-European. Okay. There is evidence. First of all, they had the largest cities in the world. In fact, they had the first cities in the world. 20, as much as 30,000 people. You know? First cities in the world were in Ukraine. Think about that. That's hugely important. I mean, most people in the world, when they think about, where did our culture come from, maybe they think about Egypt, or maybe they think about Sumeria. These cities in Ukraine were thousands of years before Sumeria and Egypt. There's even evidence that through this here, the Vincha script, there's even evidence that Vincha script. There's even some evidence to suggest that they invented a system of writing. Thousands of years before Egypt and before before Egypt and before Sumeria, before Babylon, any of those places. Like this changes the story. It resets the story of what Ukraine is and why Ukraine is important. Yeah, sure, it's not talking about bombs and war and all of that, but wars are won in the will. And what people are interested in, what gives people will is stories, is the belief in stories. And if they believe that Ukraine is nothing and all they can rely on is Russia, then they're not going to hope for anything else. If they believe that Russia is the source of all culture and all everything, we have to change that story. We have to change that narrative. And this work that Timothy Snyder is starting to do is a step in that direction. What format does Empire English School use to communicate with students? Telegram. And Cheryl, thank you for asking. Sorry, King Raccoon. You're just going to have to deal with it, man. So, Telegram and mostly Zoom calls for remote remote lessons or remote meetings. Yeah. You have it spelled correctly. So as the sod turns, just look up Tripilia culture. I'm really glad that I'm getting to put this on your map. Now, this is all academic research and it's still ongoing, but this is the sort of thing that Timothy Snyder's talking about. One of the reasons that Tripilia culture is not well known is that it was discovered just before the Iron Curtain went down. So it was discovered in, I think, the 1930s. Late 1930s, and then World War II happened. Yeah, okay, so I guess in 1884, but they didn't really know about what it was as a separate culture. And okay, yeah, see, 1932. Okay, anyway, the point is, most of the study about the Tripilia culture happened under the Soviet Union when there was no exchange of information between the Soviet Union and the West academically, or very little. So it was only in the 1990s that this stuff started to become well known. And the same is true for the Yamna culture. So the Yamnaya culture started out in this, on the Ukrainian steppe and spread across. And you had this yeah. So you had this cultural border zone, if you will, right here along the Dnipro, that was between the Tripilia culture and the Yamna culture. And the thing to keep in mind is that the Tripilia culture was super advanced. All right, they had their own system of writing. They had the largest cities in the world. Okay, they had all these amazing things. The Yamna culture, they were hunter gatherers. Okay, they were hunter gatherers, and like somebody was saying earlier, the Yamnaya artifacts are like, and I dug them all up. Right, Yamnaya artifacts are few and far between. Actually, we had tons and tons of them, but they were all just bones, like burnt bones. Interestingly, there's evidence that the Yamnaya invented the smoking or using of cannabis. So if any of you smoke weed, you can thank Ukrainians for that. There's a lot of evidence to suggest that. Yeah, sure. The history of what occurred on the land that is now called Ukraine. If that's what we want to call it, fine. That's fine with me. But culturally, the Yamnaya were, technologically behind the Cucuteni. However, what the Yamna did was they were the first to domesticate horses. Okay, and that's probably what led to their spread. They were the first to domesticate horses, and there's some evidence to suggest that they may not have been the first to use the wheel, but they were the first to put the wheel to use. Let's put it that way. The Tripilia culture, for example, had the wheel, but it appears that the only use they had for it was for children's toys. Let's see if it'll show us that. Okay. Try this again. Tripilia culture wheel. Yeah. Here we go. Great. So this was a children's toy invented in the Tripilia culture. You guys have probably seen things like this. There's no evidence that they used the wheel for anything. However, the Yamnaya people were the first to hook a horse up to a cart and travel. And that ultimately is what allowed them to spread their languages all across Europe. So yeah, guys, that's the ultimately, that's, to me, that's the origin story of Ukraine right here. And this is the story that needs to be told, that needs to go out, because okay, I guess King Raccoon got fed up and left, but he's right in a sense. Russia has sold its bullshit, its own story, which is its own version of history, but they've always used history as a tool rather than letting the facts tell themselves. And as Timothy Snyder said in that lecture that I showed before, this version of history that I'm sharing with you now has the benefit of also happening to be true. And now we know it to be true. Yeah. What came before toy cars? apparently it was these toy bulls. Before that, I don't know. So this interaction between the Yamnaya and this interaction that took place here in Ukraine, what 5,000 years ago, is what ultimately created the European culture that we have now. The language, all of it. And it started here with this stupid little toy. You know. So, now you know. Of course, there's a bad side to this. But maybe I'll talk about that tomorrow. I want to thank everybody for coming. Yeah. I'm really glad I got to share this with you guys, and we'll talk about it more. So, this is a big thing that really interests me, and these stories about the history of Ukraine and why Ukraine is important, is a big deal. So I encourage you guys to go and look this stuff up, do a little bit of your own research. If you want to know who you should look up, what I would say is look up Stephen Reich, and just look up like Stephen Reich DNA. Okay, he is the primary researcher. This dude is the primary researcher. And this might be the best. This might be one of the best.
Let me show you how we do stuff around here. Actually, my department uses...
Go away, advertisement. I hate these. I need to close a bunch of my windows. That's what needs to happen. And then I will. I want to share this, at least the beginning of this video, with you. And then we'll close out. Yeah. Yeah, this is oh, I'm sorry. God, I said Stephen Reich. Okay, next, David Reich. Hit parade, we have, so I know this is, a boring lecture, 50 professors sitting in a room. But this is revolutionary stuff. Revolutionary stuff. Okay, this is up to the minute. Well, okay, up to 5 years ago. DNA evidence that proves the linguistic theory. Okay, so like I said, that this theory about the language spread coming from Ukraine has been a debate for 150 years. And it was just now with modern technology proven that all of our languages come from Ukraine. And about 50% of our DNA, on average, across Europe and Iran and northern India. So it's a huge, cultural thing. So I'm going to suggest that everybody, and I'll post a link to this in my channel, and you guys can all. This is the story that Timothy Snyder's talking about. Okay, so yeah, so I want to just thank everybody for coming, and I'm sorry if I burst your Graham Hancock bubble, but maybe you can fit this within the Graham Hancock story too. I don't know. Yeah, and my apologies to King Raccoon. I hope he comes back. You can just King Raccoon. You can just tune out when I start talking about history. but I think the history is important, and it has been important in this war. You know, it's been used as a tool of war, and we need to use it. We need to use facts, not just made up stories, but facts. Okay. Thanks very much. Slava Ukraine. Do побачення, guys.